Today I'm pleased to have two really very strong industry experts, Henry Iams from Paystream Advisors and Joe Flynn, who's founder and CEO of Levante. Before we get to the introductions, just very quickly, we're going to be talking about the recovery vision. We're going to be talking about sort of looking at some recovery auditing myths and how we can bust them using technology. Then we'll get into a look at what does the technology do for you, what does it look like with a demo of a Levante Recovery Plus solution. And then as a recap, what are the best practice technology requirements and what are the benefits that you receive if you deploy this type of approach and methodology. And then really open it up to some discussion and questions. So again, please use the question and use the chat feature for that. So as a brief introduction, Henry Iams, from Managing Director of Paystream. We've worked with Henry for a couple of years now. He's been working in the AP industry as a major consultant, advisor, analyst. We've worked with him on webinars, speaking engagements. It's very much an expert in the AP field. And Joe Flynn, CEO and co-founder of Levante, who founded Levante after extensive experience in the recovery audit field, really with the vision of applying technology to solve some critical problems that face AP and shared services organizations around the recovery audit and managing the supplier relationships. So before we get into the content, what I'd like to do is do a brief polling question. And actually, Henry, I think that we worked on this together. If you want to introduce the polling question, I think that would be really great.
Great. Well, we really want to hear from you to learn about what's your vision and what's holding you back. So let's bring up the poll now. When we think about your recovery process, many of our customers say, well, traditional way of doing their audit recovery is the team comes in, spends a couple of weeks pouring through the data, and starts chasing overpayments. We want to know, how confident are you with your current recovery results? Do you have good confidence that all the data has been captured? Do you have good confidence that all the monies that are duplicates you've determined, the excess payments, the overpayments, have you captured all of them? Or, well, you're happy with what you get, or don't you have any idea, or maybe you don't do recovery audits. And if you don't, we're still delighted to have you on the phone today, because we're going to be teaching you about, well, a different recovery vision.
Okay, we've asked Henry. I think we've got some good results coming in, so I think we'll close the poll and let's post the results. So what do you think of this, Henry?
Wow. Well, the first thing that pops in my mind is no one is confident. No one is confident that they're capturing everything. And that's pretty much what we see with our clients. Why is that? Because, well, we're dealing with a still manual, paper-based, human-intensive process. We haven't figured out how to put more automation into this process for most recovery efforts. So somewhat confident is the biggest group here, 45%, and then, well, an equal split here between I have no idea and we don't do recovery audits. Well, we're happy that all of you are here, because we think we're going to be able to make you more confident and give you some ideas of how to be more confident in what you're doing with your recovery efforts. Let's move on to our content, which really drives into the recovery vision.
So, Henry, what I was going to ask you is, you have been an expert in the field for a number of years. You've talked to many different companies, many different providers. And as a segue to the next slide, I was just going to perhaps ask you, based on all your experience in the field, what do you think that people in accounts payable, the actual users of our solutions, of our systems, what do you think they really want from our service, from our recovery audit service?
Well, beyond the obvious of we want the money, I think what's, well, a little bit missing is better control or visibility to what's happening. So there's a number of different themes that we've put on here. And we want you to think about these, because we've put a lot of thought into what our clients are saying and what the surveys tell us and what the people are using recovery audit sort of the, I guess, what do they want to make it better? If they were to improve upon the process, what are they looking for? A couple of key themes come out. Today, recovery audit for most clients is still a project. It's a project where a team comes in, does their work, goes away. But it doesn't give management a continuous insight to what's going on. So we do get a report which says, here's why we had these recoveries. Here's the failures in your business process. But we don't, if we don't do a recovery every month, which we typically don't, well, we're not getting that feedback. And so a year or two, maybe more, goes by before we get data that tells us how we can continuously improve it, which sort of is driving around this concept of real time, right? It'd be sort of like driving a car with half the window blanked out. We got the audit reports coming back, typically on an annual or perhaps biannual or triannual basis. But we don't have an opportunity for real-time data interaction. Where did that one come from that came last month? It could be 18, 24 months before we go back to find out, well, why was that one created? Well, by the time we get there, of course, a lot of time is passed under that bridge. So many of the controllers, VPs of finance, shared service directors, disbursements managers, accounts payable managers are, well, they're looking for more control and visibility. So in the tech world, we call it sort of business intelligence. Wouldn't it be great if our ERP system did that? It's a kind of another way. Why can't we figure this out ourselves? We have recovery protectors for duplicates. We have protectors. We typically have built-in things into our accounting systems to try and block these problems. We have processes. We have procedures, but still it happens. So what the first three here really highlight the lack of, well, continuous data. We want better real-time information about what's happening with our payments so that we can, well, communicate all the time with the data. And that means to us, as we move down, more communications or collaboration with our vendors. And we're going to talk about that and get into that. That means collaborating with our suppliers to find out, hey, what is your AR system showing? How does that match up against our AP system? It means, what's your statement show, and how does that statement compare to what we owe you? And the other themes here around customized reports that give management impact. Most of us are living with, frankly, ERP systems that are at least 10 years old. So we know that we're missing a lot of data that we could be doing with them, but we just don't have the tools. So what can we do to improve upon the data that we have to make this more real time so we can use that data for management reports, for going out with our community to go work with purchasing, work with the payables groups, try and close up these gaps. And the other thing, of course, is recovery audits mean that, well, people have to be taken offline to provide the data, to do the analysis, to do the work. So that means, well, there's an impact on internal staff. Recovery costs us money. It means that we've got to put labor and people against it. It can be disruptive, especially if a lot of time has gone by. But the bottom's here. Everybody, of course, wants all the dollars recovered fast and continuous value. And, well, I think the audience has spoken, Joe. They've said they're not 100% confident. So let's move on. We believe this means peace of mind. It's kind of a summary point. So let's talk about a traditional recovery effort. We've highlighted some of you, and I guess, 27% of you say you're not using recovery audit. And we're really glad you're here today because we're going to introduce you to some new ways of thinking about this audit process. The traditional process, of course, is highly manual and labor-intensive, we've talked about, and it's a project, not a program. It's not ongoing. It's people-based. It's guys coming on site, pouring through data, getting a data extract. But you see the problem with that, you can immediately see it. It's a data extract. It's a point in time. It's not continuous. And it's, well, typically only a small sample of the suppliers, meaning that, well, we have some intrusive on-site presence, and we're only going to be able to work on a certain number of suppliers. And the reasons for that are, well, pretty clear to me. And I've got some thoughts about that, and we'll talk about that in a moment or two. So we know that doubts remain about the traditional way that this is done. And frankly, we know that, well, bringing people into our shop every year or so means it's expensive. So what else could be done? And we're going to talk about some of the opportunities. And we're going to talk about the technology that leads this. And this is really where our focus is, and we really want to spend some time talking about this as we move in. So what does technology-enabled recovery, what does it give us? Joe, what are you seeing in your organization?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, technology is sort of at the crux of what we do here at Levante. I mean, we have spent a number of years reaching out to our customers, to prospects, asking, you know, what kind of things would you like us to do with technology? If we could bring any kind of automation or any kind of tools to the marketplace, what would it be? So to me, my answer would be basically the sum total of what I've been hearing for the last 10 years. Control over the recovery process, visibility across the results. They'd like it to be interactive where, hey, just because they have a line item, you know, just because we wrote it doesn't mean it's true. Just because the supplier signed their name to it doesn't mean it's you know, what the client wants. Essentially, clients want to see at the table as the suppliers are reconciling line items. You know, we try to do our best to give interactive access to everything in a real-time basis. We know that people have needs. They need to pull up reports and send it to their management staff. So we have an interface that does that as well. So to me, technology is all about enablement, all about speed, visibility, and interactivity.
That sounds very different from a traditional recovery, Joe. So, you know, I see you didn't really mention multi-channel communications. At our last demonstration that you did for us in PayStream's Analyst, you showed us how that's really impacting the communications outreach, sort of changing the paradigm. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I sort of avoid it because that's kind of the secret sauce. Yeah, multi-channel communication is probably one of the things that separates us from everyone else. We have a communication engine that we've built. We've integrated with a phone system, with a PBX, with a fax system. And basically what it allows us to do is to communicate with more suppliers on a regular basis. As one can imagine, I mean, if given an application like this, most people would feel, oh, I could just manage my own suppliers statement auditing myself or even duplicate payments myself. And I agree. They should be able to. But you can only do that if you can really leverage less people to contact, you know, more suppliers and process more information. So the communication engine is something that really separates us from everyone else. It allows us to get better results across a wider array of suppliers. So I would say deeper penetration. And ultimately, I mean, it's funny, on the bottom we have that peace of mind, but to me, this ongoing communication engine is what delivers the peace of mind. So that someone knows, like that poll question, are you confident? Yeah, we want our clients to be confident that the automation not only gives them visibility, but gives them coverage and control. So yeah, that communication engine is a huge part of what we do.
Well, we know we're going to give us some opportunities for folks to see exactly what we're talking about here, what that means, because this sounds very different from what I'm familiar with. You know, the auditors come in, we pour through the data, we develop reports, we identify recovery items, we go after them and collect. And you're talking about, you know, ongoing communications and multi-channel. I mean, this is well, it's a new language for me. So let's move on to talk about some of the myths that we see in the marketplace. Lynn?
So yeah, so we thought we would do a myth-busting section, and I think this is the first myth is actually perfect when we talk about multi-channel communication. Where the first myth is that sampling or just sort of profiling vendors can yield maximum credits, where the majority of credits are really found in a small sample, maybe the largest of the suppliers. That's the myth that is out there. So Henry, what do you have to say about that myth?
Well, you know, it's sort of like, well, only going after just a certain piece of the market. The reality, most auditors really, the traditional recovery wants to just get in and get out. The analogy I like is a realtor. When you're buying or selling a house, imagine the goal of selling a house is, well, the realtor just wants the sale. They don't care how much it goes for. They need to move on, right? They're moving on to another process for maximum dollars. The traditional way to get the easy high claims fast is, well, you come in, you do your audit, and you find the money, and then you move on. You've got to take that labor and that project team and move on to another client. Frankly, if they stick around, they don't find a lot more big dollars. And for us, we believe that the longer you stay in and watch the data, the more client money that can be found, and that's exactly what the research shows. So, Joe, when we think about that, and you've given us a little bit of insight, but now connect the dots for me. What impact does the technology have on getting all and reviewing all of the payments?
Before I do that, I think it's neat that I should point out that you just compared us to realtors, which I guess is good because you didn't compare us to used car salesmen. But okay, fair enough.
We like realtors. I like realtors, but you got to know what you're buying, right?
That's right. No.
Their job is to close a sale, and they want to convince both sides to come to agreement.
No, I think it's one of the reasons why we've been growing so much. I mean, the fact that we have a communication engine and we have the facility to give coverage across, I'm going to say all the suppliers, but clearly we don't go after IRS and government stuff, but the majority of suppliers, I'll say 90% of them, the fact that we can do that has made the results that we have sort of trump any other competitors before us and or after us. So this myth to me is, I don't know, I already busted this myth 10 years ago, so it's interesting to watch new clients, how they react when you show them how instead of finding claims against 400 or 500 suppliers, you can get them against 13 or 1,400 suppliers. If you, instead of sampling, if you actually look at every supplier, right, like treat them all the same, like sort of make it be a rule, like a control. Your control internally could be, all right, we're going to treat all suppliers the same, not just the top, whatever, 200 or 10% or something like that. Once you get that control in place and you use an application that enables you to go communicate with everybody, the results are tremendously different. And yeah, it's just amazing it's amazing that competitors still do it the other way. I don't know what else to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we've pretty much busted this myth here.
It's busted.
Busted. So let's move on to the second myth, where we're really looking at a myth of that point in time or annual recovery engagements or projects are sufficient, and that all credits really can be found in a one-time based project. So Henry, do you want to take this myth on too?
Yeah, I mean, the data just tells us that it's otherwise. The reality is that the only way you're going to find and uncover all of the money is to continuously do it. You can't wait 24 months, 18 months, even 9 months after a claim should be filed to go in and file it. Too much time has passed. It costs too much money. And B, a lot of this money never gets recovered. Only by doing this continuously can you deliver the full results. And we highlighted that previously on the prior slide, is that a lot of the credits come from the lower 80% of the spend population. In other words, we've got to touch a lot of suppliers. We can't just touch our top 100, 200, 500. We've got to touch a much broader group of them. And the only way we can do that is through automation. So we know that the value goes up the more touches we have. And so that's what the data, the facts are showing us. Joe, do you have an example of how you've been able to go into a company that didn't have a continuous and recovery audit and you were able to transform and bring additional dollars?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like most audits. I mean, let's face it, unless you're a huge Walmart, Kmart, or Target, or some kind of big company like that, you don't necessarily always have the provider, the recovery solution provider, really hammering you to work all year round. I mean, this might even be more like towards your real estate analogy. I mean, ultimately, we all hear about low-hanging fruit, low-hanging fruit. Yeah, the whole concept is there because that's the most efficient money for people to find. So what happens is, basically, the longer an audit firm stays around, the less yield they can get on the process. On the flip side, you also have the clients who are saying, hey, I don't want someone around here, I don't want a root canal every day. Just do it for me every once in a while. Our strategy is, have a solution that is more, that controls the last mile. So you get like signed verifications from suppliers that you can deliver in real-time basis that clients can see, so they can spend an hour a week working the process. We find when we go into places, most people are not used to having an audit firm that delivers claims every week on a weekly basis. And sometimes it's hard for them to realize, wait a minute, you mean that there's activity out there and I can see value every single week and or every single month? And yeah, once we get their head around how easy it is to use the interface and how we've got that last mile of work or labor covered, we see it many places, Henry, many places we go. And again, it's the concept of, instead of sampling, go after all, be more diligent and get different results.
Well, Lynn, I think we've busted this one as well. Let's go and bust another one. Let's do a third one. There's more.
And the final myth that we want to bust today is that one audit provider can effectively and really efficiently handle both the client and the vendor side recoveries. That one solution can do it all. So what do you think about that?
Well, the reality here is these are very different. A traditional recovery audit is an excellent way of bringing in and finding problems in your payments process and your your approval process. But the reality here is that doing a vendor-side statement recovery audit, a credit audit, it really demands a separate, focused effort. It's a very different animal. It's entirely different because we need to communicate with our suppliers, and not just handfuls, but thousands. And we need an automated, technology-enabled way to do that, because the human way will just never reach the bottom of the barrel. The only way to dive to the bottom of the barrel is by using technology. And so I think this one is really busted because, well, without the technology, traditional recovery audit does not reach the maximum potential. So let's see what this looks like. I think we've whet the appetite of our audience to drill into a new way of thinking about this, Joe. And we're excited to, let's bust this one. And what does it look like? How does this technology work? And what does it mean? So I've got some questions for you, Joe. Our team has been really impressed with what Levante's delivered with its new Recovery Plus solution. So can you walk us through how a basic Levante statement review automated recovery works?
Yes, I would be happy to.
Yeah, show us a little demonstration.
And I think at the core of our application is the concept of you sort of have to look at managing this issue, the supplier side accounting, as a process, not a project. And if you can get your head around looking at it as a process, all this stuff kind of makes a little more sense. For starters, what I've done is I've loaded you up onto a demo. This is you probably can't see my screen, but this is a demo version of our software. We have a fictitious name. We have kind of a screen that you can customize and make any way you want. Let me put it the way that I'm used to looking at it. I tend to move these things around during demos. Generally speaking, this is where our customers will drop. You can configure the screen the way you want. But yeah, when you look at claims, oh, by the way, the data in this has been sort of cleansed for presentations. So if anything's recognizable, it's only because of, well, yeah, we all deal with suppliers all day long. Generally, there's an area down here and up here where you can actually just process claims. And you can actually see the data in real time that we've submitted. You can go and look at a kind of client level where the information's come from. You can check information about the clients. You can directly email the client from this application. You can see the documents that we've collected if you want to see the statement itself. You can just pop it open real easy and just scroll down through the pages if that's what you want to endeavor. We also deliver signed verifications from suppliers. And this is an example of a signed verification here. You just click on it, and you can actually see the signature right here. And I don't know exactly.
In this example, Devin Rice, the accounting manager, has signed off on the fact that there was an overpayment, and related to this check, and that they're going to make, that they recognize it and they're going to make a payment back.
Not only that, but we also found out these are actually returns. In this particular case, she sent the the credit memos with them. So we have like all the backup we could sort of want for this. But Henry, why don't I just go back to the dashboard, and if you have any questions, go that way, because as I tell you, I talk too much, so why don't I just be quiet for a minute, see what you need.
Well, give us some insight. So you showed us some data of recovery documentation. Tell us about the outreach campaign. How does this work? What is different from a traditional recovery audit?
Okay, very nice. There are a couple things that we do differently, I think, that separate us. One is we endeavor to have like a different level of compliance than most other providers, and we actually lead with our compliance. Like, generally speaking, there's 3 major dashboards that we provide. One is a claims dashboard, one the supplier dashboard, and one is a compliance dashboard. In our compliance dashboard, we have 4 general areas that people can look at, including but not limited to compliance by spend rank. What we try to do is we try to give people a lot of perspective on the effort that's happening on their behalf. So, for example, we look at our clients as they walk the tightrope of AP, and this is a process that is the safety net. So don't look at it like an audit. Look at it like a process. And in that process,
there's a team working continuously on this. So there's statement requests constantly going out to suppliers, and those requests and the data that's coming back is popping into here as potentially new claims, because we see credits that have not been applied. That's right.
So within our little interface here, I'll call your attention to maybe this report right here, and with it, we have this way we built our interface where if there's a certain report you want to look at, you just basically open it up and it takes the full screen. As well as you can actually kind of make it even bigger. I'm not sure how that's looking on your screen if you can see the movements, but
looks great.
We basically report out by decile every 10%, and we tell you how much, like, will not provide, no response, no credits, with credits, and inaccurate contact. So what we basically do is sometimes we make reports of people, and then we can export these things in terms of JPEGs and PDFs and images, so we can put into PowerPoints for them, or so that they can put in for their, for their reporting. We basically can go in here and we can modify this report. We can say, well, we don't really care too much about the will not provides, and forget the ones incorrect contact. Let's close that out. Show me the no response and then the ones with credits. So we shut this off, and I can show you. Look at the penetration in the higher spend. We endeavor to go deeper and deeper and deeper, but in this particular client, when we took this snapshot, we have not gone, or here, just a no response. Here's the no response we have throughout all the ranks. Now,
yeah, Joe, mouse over one of these so we can see the data behind it. So 90 to 90%, that's 4.8% of the
spend
compliance of the reviews, right? That they had no response. Okay.
Correct. 4.8 of them have no response. And you can drill down and look at these things. What we're trying to show people is, with this approach, you can actually, and so this may be 1,000 suppliers, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, buckets of 10. This could be 1,000 suppliers. And you can go through and look, this is what we endeavor to do, to go after and get a lot from these suppliers. In fact, what's really valuable from our application is forget the no response, is when you add the responses with credits and those without credits, you start to realize, look at all the suppliers that have opined on this engagement. What we endeavor to do is build this green bucket as large as possible. I mean, there are going to be suppliers who have open, good communication channels with their clients and don't have line items that have not been communicated. Our job is to communicate with everyone, so to make it be the most robust and the most vital experience, I suppose. The other thing I would say is, just real quick, before I finish, is within this interface, you can actually look at compliance by spend, sort of in a pie chart, if you will, and you can get to see what kind of spend it is that actually is talked about, because it's by spend, or by count, if that's what you want, and we can see how many are where. That answer your question?
It does. All righty. So you have this profiling that you do on targeting as part of your statement review service. So as part of this audit, how does that work, and how do you do targeting? So you're hooking up to the client's real data, right, real time, and then you're figuring out profiling and which vendors that you're going to communicate with. Is that how it works?
Yeah, generally speaking, we sort of leave a little bit of that up to, and I clicked over to, while you were asking that question, I clicked over to this area here where it's like supplier area. It's a dashboard for our customers. Once again, it has a lot of cool features that you can fool around with to the extent you want to. And basically, you can see the suppliers that we were given and how much, and they sometimes do not audit them. We actually, so they take them out of the engagement for, could be many different reasons.
Yep.
There also could be a concept where they're related suppliers. We do a lot of related supplier analysis. A lot of things that you can't do in your ERP systems. Like in your ERP systems, you can check by phone or fax if you so endeavor. What you can't do is by contact phone, contact fax, by email address, or usually. So we go out, we endeavor to collect contact information from all of your suppliers, and then we give you the ability to, or we actually go through and we reconcile. Like here's change statistics, how many emails we've entered into here, how many phone numbers we've entered into the system. So this is all the data that we've added for our clients, and they usually take this information and feed it into their vendor master file. When you ask about how we filter or target, we actually sort of almost don't. We try to have the pool be as large as possible and get compliance. There's one thing I do want to point out, and that is one thing that's really powerful about our system that kind of goes overlooked all the time is this area here, the claims by organization. If I look at claims by organization, and these charts are really interactive, so particularly this client is a huge Northern California, Southern California type client. And I've already filtered this claims. I can go last 3 months, last 12 months. I've done it all by year, so you can see the year-to-year results of this client. You can change the type of chart. Do like a stacked bar. And in a stacked bar chart, you can see that here's the claims every month that this client gets, excuse me, every year. But what you can see here is that this is predominantly dominated by 2 different locations. So if you take these locations out, simply by clicking on that location, it removes it from the chart. And now you can see how the other divisions stack up. What's unique about this is we can run this centrally and give the leader of this firm or of this audit or of this finance department or whatever, we can give them visibility across all departments, and you can clearly just like drill down and see whatever you want on any of these lines.
Yeah, what if I wanted to see how many claims we had last year, for instance, or what are the sources of those claims? What, how do you, or how many claims did Levante send me last month? What do you have that data listed here?
Indeed. In fact, I can do one better. I can go for any period, whether it's year, month, whatever, a quarter. And here is basically our all claims tab. I'll just make it a little bigger so the groups can see it. The red is the number of line items. The blue would be the dollar amount. You could click or drill down on this if you'd like. Again, you could just change the chart to the extent you want to. A really interesting strat is claims by type. You mentioned type. This particular client has a lot of returns, but you can take the returns off and see what else is there. And you can say, just show me my trend of my trend of returns over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. What's my returns look like?
And you showed us something. Flipped over something about the backup documentation to support the claim. That was the.
Yeah.
You store those images in the system. How do they get there?
A number of different ways. We have an integrated OCR application that we wrote, that we created, that we own. We actually have a patent on an application on the OCR part that we built. So basically, if you drill down to any one of these line items, you are going to find a document at the base of it. Here's the doc link right here. So here you hit this, there's your doc. So you're really only ever 2 clicks away from getting the supporting documentation. Again, we believe that if you treat this as a matter of a process, not a project, all this stuff makes a lot more sense. If it's just a project you're going to do for a month, you're sort of throwing howitzer at it. But people want. For the last 10 years, people have been telling me they want end-to-end visibility. They want interactivity. They want collaboration with suppliers. They
well, don't we all want improved control? I mean, we have some amazing control on our mobile devices today in terms of what we can do with our Androids and our iPhones. Seems natural to want to have that same control over our recovery effort.
Yeah, and we usually demo this on iPad because it is portable and you can take it with you wherever you go. But I don't know how many people are using it that way. But as our application expands, we're going to turn the communication engine inside out and let our clients use it to communicate with suppliers. And then we think our Android and our iPhone apps are going to be very important to our customers. Again, it's about enabling and facilitating control and communication for suppliers, for clients. That's what it's all about to us. That's what our clients are asking for.
Well, what about, we remember back to the core question we asked in the poll. Many in the audience weren't too confident at all about their recovery results. How does Recovery Plus make us more confident? I mean, how do I know that I'm, getting everything?
I would probably suggest a combination of all these things. I mean, if you have your compliance and and so we tune the outreach based on client needs. We start talking about what's our philosophy. We have a best practice outreach setup that we use. And when people hear what we do for outreach, my personal opinion from what I've experienced is they're pretty satisfied that we are communicating with, I'll say everyone, clearly not everyone because we don't call the IRS, et cetera, but state and local governments. But seeing the amount of outreach that we do, seeing the amount of statements that come in on a regular basis, looking at the compliance statistics, and seeing the results. I mean, when you have an order of magnitude raise in the recoveries, you realize more work is being done. And actually, to be honest, low recoveries are less work. More recoveries, more work.
Which means it's a big reason why the others many times don't get there. All right, so I need to send a report. Many of us need to have reports to our senior management, the CFO. How do I use this tool to help report what's happened and where we've recovered the funds from? How can I prepare for leadership?
Hopefully this translates well on my GoToMeeting. Sometimes we have issues with it. I took this one chart and I now open it up in terms of a JPEG. Can you see this on the screen?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can take this JPEG. In fact, all the charts you ever see in our presentations, even in the WebEx today, will be pulled from one of these reports or another. Another cool thing is we actually have, and again, this is a demo server. We have even better reporting in our regular area, but you can also pull, like in your claims area, you can pull them off in PDF to the extent you want to report on it. And let me open, this is our PDF. There's also, I don't know if you can see next to the PDF, there's a little Excel icon. Can you see that, or is my little GoToMeeting?
Yeah.
The Excel icon?
Yeah,
so
right there, right. Yeah, mouse over that.
Show up in a spreadsheet. And
so it extracts and puts it into an Excel file?
Yes, and there's a third icon in production that's not on demo that downloads the data in a CSV file for those people who want to upload to ERP Direct. So we have lots of, again, control. Lots of control for our users.
Well, it seems like the big theme. It seems like today more and more we want better access to the data and the control of the process. You showed us the backup documentation. Now, when you conduct an audit, you're really relying on your communication engine. I don't know if we have this. Do you show that in here of access to what's happening in the communications? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we do, but it's like the super secret stuff now. I have in here audit screens that I don't even know if I showed you, and it basically can talk about how many outreaches were done by mail, phone, fax, email, whatever on any given basis. This is clearly demo data, so we don't have any data for the last 4 or 5 months. It's just a snapshot, let's say. And when you can see the actual communications that are going out, you can also track what comes in terms of statements and line items as well. And I can track the frequency that the suppliers say yes or no to the line items. So I can give my clients really good look and feel so they can see how well the communication is working for them. And each individual client can sort of, I don't know, see what it all looks like. And then in that last screen, I showed this green area here, that the number of statements that have come in. I can actually go through in our OCR area and show here are all the statements that have come in. And our OCR that we wrote actually allows us to see what credits are on the statement before we actually open it. This is the real secret stuff. And
right. So you're going back. You were showing in that prior screen recoveries. Statements that had come in by month, right?
Yes.
So in September, you were showing 838 credits. Wow.
Yes.
It's incredible data to be able to look at this. So this is something I can look at day in and day out. So I'm a manager in a department. You know, how much time do I need to spend with this, and what am I going to be doing on a weekly basis to review the claims that are coming in? What's the typical way that I'm going to be looking at it?
Actually, you don't need to look at the audit information at all. We handle all of that. There's no work to be done on the outreach. Once we set the rules, we kind of go with it. We actually have another screen that shows outreach, and it shows all suppliers by age of statement, like so when's the last time they opined, in their ranks, everything. And we manage to keep those numbers in check. Also, all clients have to do really is log in on a timely basis and download their reports and interact with them, download their claims. These claims come with signed verifications. They should be like a complete packet with little or no support needed. Some clients say they do a half an hour of work a week on it. Some people decide to go back and contact all suppliers over again to reevaluate. What's funny is when I talk to a prospect personally and I said, do you want to do that? Everyone university says, no, I'll never do it. But then usually the people that work for them do stuff like that. And I kind of don't get it. Like, but that's why we get signed verifications. But, you know, we have to support many different types of clients many different ways.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I'm up and looking at this upper left portion of the screen here. So items needing my review. So it shows, you know, number of days that have been outstanding and new open claims. Claims be in process. So I can kind of log in once a week if I want, see what needs to be reviewed, because according to my business rules, I may say, yeah, for any claims against this vendor, I got to approve it before we're going to work on it.
You got it.
So
and it's all part of the workflow. We're adding a workflow component to this so that make it get even easier for our clients. It's a big release we're coming out with, and a communication engine just for functionality and sort of control. I didn't really talk about this because this demo area is sort of a snapshot from 4 or 5 months ago, so you don't see any activity, so I ignored it.
No, I got it. I understand. Thanks for giving us so far what you've got. You know, I'm seeing a lot of, you know, value here and showing me how this is very different. Is there, you know, a rule of thumb of what additional monies you can uncover using this kind of techniques versus the traditional techniques? Any, you know, guidance of what you tell the prospects of what you might be able to find?
Once upon a time, I ran a division of a large, like traditional recovery audit firm who will remain nameless, and they used to describe looking at these statements as the icing on the cake, so to speak, and the cake was the duplicate payments and contract compliance, and et cetera, et cetera. The reality of it now is it's a separate cake. It's no longer the icing on the cake. It's a separate cake. So even if you have generally a healthy traditional duplicate, well, actually we do duplicate payment audits as well, but we do other audit types as well, but this is kind of where we dominate. I would say anywhere, it's a wide range. I mean, I always hate to overpromise, but anywhere between 300 to 600,000-700,000 per billion of spend. Many times you see results like this where every year that the audits go up. Sometimes you see every year the audits go down. It depends on the customers, how many suppliers they take out of the review. Again, this is a process, not a project, and you need to do diligence across a wide variety of suppliers, and the results definitely vary, but there always are results, unlike traditional recovery.
No, that's very helpful.
Old firms used to always lead with the statement stuff. They still kind of do, especially if it's non-retail. Non-retail, these types of reviews are all the money's identified.
Okay. Joe, you touched upon the workflow components that are coming as part of the solution. That means it gives me additional business rules and notifications based on what you recover. Is that right? Or the claims that you identify?
Yeah, we have some good business rules already and some good workflow, but we want to, again, we constantly go out to our clients and our customers and our prospects and ask, what would you like? And one of the things that they're looking for is, actually we have it in wireframes and we're ready to do it, but I haven't showed you yet, but just sort of like kind of a neat little GUI user interface that allows clients to process line items. Like as effortlessly as possible is what we're trying for.
Oh, wow.
For example, they could set the rules of what they want a line item to be like. They say, well, we want it to have a statement. We want it to be verified. We want it to be this. We want it to be that. If it's over $100,000 in dollars, we want to call. If not, we don't want to call. Whatever the rules are, we can set it, and then they can forget it. And we'll show them, in terms of their rules, what these line items look like. And they can process in terms of buckets. That's what's coming out.
This looks very, very different from the traditional reports that I've seen for our clients, which are, more, well, they're certainly not interactive. Here's how much money we recovered. Here's the results of the recovery. Here's our recommendations of what we would do to close up, make sure that those claims don't have to happen again. So it looks extremely different. I mean, I can't even imagine that as part of a recovery audit, considering the kind of data that we're looking at.
Henry, the difference of this is we partner with our clients to build it. The solution is for our clients, not necessarily just for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's just our clients want to treat this as a process, not a project. They know there's an accounting gap, that there's money out there. That's why they do recovery in the first place. And they don't want to get, we don't want to have an audit every year come and exploit it. They want to build a process that can manage it. That's who we are. That's what we represent to the industry. There's no longer do you have to fear and have, like your original poll question. Do you know for sure that you have coverage? Well, our clients know what they have. Maybe they don't like what we did. Maybe they do like what we did, but they know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, why can't, in this day and age, why can't we do this on our own? Why do we need a partner firm to do this for us?
Two answers to that question. Probably going to mess up all the people online. You can do it on. You can use our software and do it, and we can help and aid you. That's the first way. The second way is there's just too many suppliers, too many communications. If I drill down to any one almost random supplier here, I'll have them say California or Cook, so let's just grab one. I mean, the number of documents that sit in this queue, there's a lot. And this is actually not a lot, believe it or not, compared to what I have seen. Collecting these documents, these are all imaged, all stored. How do you route them? How do you get the information? And we actually get verification signed by suppliers. Most clients don't want that if they do their own work. Even if you have another audit firm, you can use this tool ahead of time as internally and manage this process, and you probably would take all the claims away so that your audit firms don't. It's definitely, Recovery Plus is meant to be a disruptive introduction to the marketplace. People don't have to wait they don't have to have old school service. They can go and have a new process.
Well, it looks very, so far, not disruptive. It looks like it's very enabling. It's empowering me as the accounts payable manager, the controller, disbursements manager. It's really helping me see a different vision of what I can do with this. Okay. Well, are we ready to take it into the Q&A portion and let our audience speak with some questions?
Okay. Actually, Henry, I think we have a poll question. After seeing all of the demo, what we wanted to do is find out a little bit from the audience what they think about this kind of approach and about this solution. So why don't we go ahead and bring that poll up. And I think it's open now. So if everybody can just sort of share just a few of your thoughts about what you've just seen, what Joe has just brought us through.
Yeah, I'm very curious. It seems wildly different from what we think of from recovery, and this kind of analyst tool looks like something we would, well, frankly, try to build on our own as part of an extension of our ERP system. But I know that's years away, and we're bringing in data that's not part of our ERP. We're bringing in claims data and external outreach data.
It's supplier contact information. I think that's the huge differentiator. We're expanding that dramatically to give people control and visibility.
Yeah, I'm curious to what our audience is finding out of this kind of look. And
yeah, I think we can post it now. I think we've had most people. It looks like sort of a range of responses here.
Yeah, 29% saying, well, it has a functionality well beyond a traditional audit, and then that's what our analysts felt when they took a look. 24% matched here, saying it would add value, and it's similar to other solutions they've seen. And well, 20% are saying never seen anything like it. So that's a very strong indicator for me, Joe. That you need to continue what you're doing with this technology. It really is adding a lot of value to the process for many of those on the phone.
So I think that we're sort of coming to a little bit of the wrap-up. Maybe, Henry, you can share a little bit about these best practice techniques and requirements, and then ending with the benefits that are really driven through this kind of approach.
I'd be delighted. You know, at PayStream Advisors, we've been studying the automation marketplace for purchase-to-pay even before the term purchase-to-pay existed for the past almost 13 years now. And we've been studying both traditional and non-traditional techniques of automating accounts payable, automating recovery and recovery audit processes. And today we're really seeing that, well, it must include some kind of a cloud or software as a service. That's what that SaaS stands for, software as a service type solution. Because, well, we need to do it in real time, and we need to have the data and the technology changing. We can't afford to buy technology anymore that you can't continuously upgrade. So it was kind of enlightening, Joe, when you were talking about, you know, the workflow and the stuff that you've developed since the demo tool has been put together and how it's already changed. And that's really a key feature of software as a service in the cloud, that you can come up with the releases every month and deliver that to your customer base, and that's really very powerful. We really like, of course, this interactivity, and that's what our analysts have been very keen about, is being able to use the data in a more intuitive way instead of looking at a static report, but being able to take that report apart and drill into the data and what it means, even so far as to actually look at the statement or claim that we have from our supplier. We love the concepts of collaboration and repeatable processes. So workflow automation gives us a very static way of saying, here's how this is going to happen every time. So in the example I was asking Joe about, well, show me the dashboard. And Joe said, yeah, here's the workflow essentially that you set up as items that need your review. Perhaps as a business manager, I define and say, I want to look for every kind of claim against these 5 vendors needs to stop here from you first because it's sensitive. Prior to that, even enabling that, Joe, I might have even given you that claim because I didn't want you touching it. But with workflow, it gives me more confidence that I have more control over the process, which means I can drive the way it's done. I'm not sticking the auditor on my client or the collection persons on my client, but I'm making individualized decisions based on the different claims that are uncovered. And we could send that to other units. So I may not be the business owner, or most likely I'm not the business owner of that supplier relationship, but I can share that with my buyer and say, here's this claim that we've come up with. Do you think we should attempt to collect this claim, or is this something that's, well, something that we didn't know about? Very, very powerful. A big theme that we've also been really harping on here is around continuous improvement and real-time data. That's foreign to many of us, right? Because we have older accounting systems, and frankly, for most paper-based accounts payable departments, we're already 30 days behind because most invoices don't make it into our system, or on average, they're getting in posted in 30 days. So that concept of real-time data is a little foreign to us. And we've seen the dynamic reporting and the scalability. Let's move on to the next solution piece here that we think is really important as we wrap up. So, you know, there's some statistics here. We certainly could talk about the need for a low-impact solution with fast results. Of course, doesn't everybody want that visibility in real time? And, you know, we got a fancy word here, multi-level connections. And I asked Joe what that meant. And to me, it means that we're reaching our suppliers in the ways and that make best sense for them. Some suppliers are going to respond well to emails, some only to fax, and some are going to need the good old-fashioned phone call. How do we do that? How do you deliver that en masse? And I think that's a big piece that automation, in our estimation, makes that much easier for us to say, okay, we know this supplier. We've been tracking this supplier. This supplier responds to faxes. Very difficult for us as clients to do that. And finally here, the all-inclusive tracking of the recovery. Joe, what is your experience around these themes and how it delivers value to your customer set?
The interesting thing that we see is that visibility and interactivity has been embraced by our clients in a tremendous way. The idea of the low impact deployment, the idea of it being software as a service, or let's say web-based. You're right. We have new features that come out all the time. In fact, there was just a question about us being global, and we have been able to now. We're deploying our application to like a Fortune 50 company that's international and taking over the international business. We were able to add multi-currency support to this application. It's not a demo, but it's in our production thing. Just in a short while. And when you have a SaaS-based application, we're now not only are we able to do that for that client, but once we have the thing built in, it's for all clients. So what I think is kind of neat about the clients that we have is there's a number of them that I deal with on a regular basis that are sort of, when they give us good suggestions of stuff to build, we're able to layer that in, and then all clients get the benefit of having it. So if some client says, hey, I'd like to have a report that looks like this, and it's actually sort of ingenious, well, then we go out and make it, and we put it on the interface for all our other clients. So it's becoming kind of communal. The other thing that I think people like is the fact that we're creating a supplier network. So in many cases, when a customer comes to us, we know a little bit about their supplier before, or maybe a little more than they do. One of the huge, tremendous advantages we have is it's one application. It's not deployed. It's not a behind-the-firewall system. There's other software that does recovery audit where it's behind the firewall. That has to be installed. It's expensive IT-wise. This is not. It needs to be managed. It needs to have some upkeep. Sometimes there's like last-mile support it needs. Ours does not. You just log in. You just go to a web browser like I did. You type in levante.com. You push their login, and you're done. These trends of collaborating with clients and giving them freedom, it's been great for us.
Well, I see some questions coming in, Joe. One here is, you showed us a lot of data, but how frequently is the data from the client refreshed? Is it weekly? Is it changes? Is it daily, monthly? What's going on here?
Not knowing exactly what client data that is being asked about, I would say it's sort of up to the client. As a rule, we start with the static vendor download or dump that comes out of our clients' ERP systems. That is refreshed on a periodic basis. Some people give it to us every 6 months, some people every year. We also get visibility into their known credits file. We want to make sure that we don't submit claims to our clients that they already have in their system. That file actually comes over a little more frequently. We try to set it up as an automated job. That we either get weekly or monthly usually. Mm-hmm. I don't know that we have it. We get it from anyone daily because we batch process claims on a weekly basis, so the weekly is sufficient enough to make it so there's no duplication of efforts.
Back to you, Lynn.
Okay, we have one question that I think really talks about the deployment. It says, how long does it take to deploy this type of automated system, and really sort of what is involved in it?
Deployment, or is that for me or for Henry?
I think that's probably more for you, Joe, because it was specifically about the demo.
One of the coolest things about this application now that it's SaaS-based, not behind the firewall, which is a nightmare, is you could get this, provided we all kind of collaborate correctly, you could get this started on a Monday and have your first results back on Friday. In terms of pain, probably not that much, as long as you can get a supplier master file out of your system and that known credits file, which we probably help you get. The real question is, how do we collaborate on building your workflow process so that it reduces your time to process? Again, I think part of what defines us as a different type of firm is that we endeavor to build the solution that our customers want. It's not just what we want, it's what they want. So we'll sit and we'll sort of configure this application so it fits well with people. I don't know that launching it is painful at all. And I know it's very fast. It just depends upon the relationship. And
Okay.
did I answer that question?
I think so. I think this one could also go to Henry, ones where there's a little bit of confusion about this. You mentioned static reports versus interactive reports, and sort of why is that important? And I think that also could relate to the poll results where it says that I've seen something similar. You know, I've seen something in the that other solutions have, and maybe a little bit more discussion on this static versus interactive or dynamic reporting.
Mm-hmm.
So Henry, maybe you could take
it.
Yeah,
I'd be delighted, Lynn. Yeah, I think Joe really has done a terrific job of giving an insight to a static versus a dynamic report. What we were seeing, of course, was dynamic reports. As Joe was mousing over data, it popped up what was that data point, and then we could drill that data point and get to the data behind it. To us, that's tremendously more valuable to the business unit manager because it means that we can verify the information that's there and quickly make additional insights from it. So, for instance, in the case that we were just talking about, if we were drilling in and saying, okay, it looks like we had 10 claims posted last week, I can say, well, what are those claims, and am I comfortable with them? A big part of the recovery and the continuous process is that we want to see what's being claimed, but we also want to see what's the insight, and is there some intellect that I can learn from it? In a dynamic report, I may be able to look quickly at what was claimed last week and say, wait a minute, we seem to have a problem with a certain type of vendor or a certain kind of issue. Let's start working on that immediately. That means immediately I can take business value back to my organization. So an example would be, yeah, we're seeing claims come back from 3 different, say, steel suppliers if I'm a manufacturer. Why are we having problems with steel? Oh, wait a minute. We've got some pricing errors in our vendor information or our materials master. Maybe there's been a maybe we didn't update our price tables, and so we're overpaying. And the vendor's giving us credits, but they're not telling us about it, and we didn't know about it. So this is the kind of, we think, the powerful change in paradigm, that shift that we see when we have real-time and dynamic reports.
Henry, may I add something to that as well?
Absolutely.
This is a huge point for the presentation. I can't believe I forgot it. In our world, the difference between static and dynamic is simple. This is a multi-tenant system. We have 3 or 4 people that can be working on any account at any time supporting the customer. If any of those people make any change to any line item, any phone number, any fax number, any contact information, anything, when they push save, it shows up in the reports. The reports are recalculated in real time. When we say this is interactive, this is interactive. This is a real-time interface that everyone can work on. If someone on our client can put something on hold and says, please do this, and they push save, it flags our auditor system where they can respond immediately. This is not a reporting tool. This is a tool that helps you manage this whole entire process. Interactive is just a word. I mean, this thing is fully interactive in real time. This is not a reporting tool.
You know, there's another question that sort of, I think, it relates to what you just talked about, Joe, and it's drilling down a little bit more into talking about supplier outreach and really how do you manage, I mean, all of the documents and all the data that comes back from tens of thousands of suppliers.
The answer is we have this multi-mode outreach system, and we have a multi-mode inbound system. We're able to take documents in a multitude of different formats and store them for immediate retrieval by our customers on the interface at logical intervals, like where they expect to see the document. We have millions of documents. They're all there. We have today's technology that architected this. This is not something from 20 years ago that you put behind a firewall. That's old school technology and it's dying. This is something that is disruptive to the industry. It's real-time interactive, both the documents and the communication, the reporting. It's today's technology. There's a million documents that support this, or some huge number. Maybe it's 900,000, but it's a huge number.
Mm-hmm.
We did have another question about if this is a global solution. Is it just in the U.S. or is it international?
Yes, I'm excited to say it's a global solution. For the previous couple of years, we've had a lot of clients want us to do their work internationally, and we didn't have, to be real time like we are, there's some challenges. I showed that one report, I showed that one chart that showed the different divisions of a company. We didn't want to go to some other country and have a second version of the application. We wanted to be multi-tenant so that one main super user could log in and see, here's my claims from this, from the U.S., from from the UK, and from the Far East, whatever divisions they want. We wanted everything enrolled in one application, in one interface, and one reporting structure, and now we have that. So I'm super excited about that. That's again one more way that our tool is going to be disruptive in the industry. You won't have to have two separate management reports. You can roll it all up. We'll be the first group that can do that in real time, and it's interactive.
Okay, and Henry, there's one here that really speaks a little bit more to the market. Sort of how will this type of technology impact the more traditional audit services? What do you think about that? It's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's how does technology changing traditional audit? Well, in some ways, a good bit, but there's only so much that can be done. So what we're seeing here with Recovery Plus is a combination, right? So we've taken the technology of reporting and layered on top of a changed business process, a change of how we can do continuously reviewing statements and credits, and that's a very different thing. So we're taking what was project-based and making it into a program, and that's really so the traditional can provide a wonderful dashboard into the review process, but only as the extent of the length of the project.
Okay.
And you got to remember, like, what has technology done to any industry? I mean, it takes phones off the walls and puts them in our pocket, right? Think of a rotary phone versus an iPhone. It's speed, and it's where big data meets mobility, and that's where we're trying to intersect.
All right, thank you. But we have a couple of people have asked more about the cost of the solution and sort of how is it priced. So, Joe, I think that might be one for you.
There's a couple of determining factors how we develop price. We're working on new pricing infrastructure now. Some large companies want to have it be an enablement tool where they actually work on it. That's the training is our biggest challenge of people. We can do contingency fee like traditional firms. We have a growing group of people that want pure subscription, so they can say that they sort of want protection from big dollar line item fines. That's kind of how we're pricing it now. We usually base the pricing on number of vendors and size of the company, because that usually dictates how many lines we're going to have to deal with, how many statements we have to deal with. Generally speaking, I do not think that we do a ton of work. Like, we'll go after 10 times the amount of suppliers that your traditional auditor will. Probably cost per supplier is a lot less, but when you add all the work in, my guess is we're less than competitors. Just not crazy less, because we do a lot more work, if that makes sense. But yeah, you can have subscription seems to be the way people are wanting to go these days. I think they're trying to fix their budget and make it acceptable where they don't have to worry about the big, large claims that come in. And I think it's good, because then it gives you goal congruency, right? You don't have to have a big line item come in as a fight over it, and you're not incenting people to just go after the low-hanging fruit, as it were. I think that has to change in the industry. We've got to get away from going after low-hanging fruit and cherry-picking audits. It has to end, and has to go more of a process.
Henry, do you have any thoughts or any added input on that question?
No, I think Joe nailed it.
Okay, and we have sort of a follow-up on the international question that was asked earlier. And it's really talking about, do you have to have auditors around the world, and sort of like in all the different countries that you're representing? So, Joe, that might be back at you.
Yeah, the answer is sort of yes and no. You need to have a presence in all the different areas. I don't know that you need to have full audit staff like we do here everywhere. Quite honestly, I think we're going to ultimately end up that way. Right now, we have different partners. We have a partner with a large with a couple different consulting firms, large consulting firms that most people work with. We haven't announced it yet. We're about to. So we're going to have some support overseas. But yeah, we will go and we will sort of add resources as we need. There's a couple other large multinational companies that are going to be using our application. We're going to be out there training as well. So yeah, no, we're really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a huge change for us. I mean, we've been growing so fast domestically. We wanted to make sure that we delivered excellent service everywhere we went first before, and had our application right, so you don't have two separate installs for a customer. That's what we tried to avoid. So I think now the technology has, caught up to our desires, and we're able to do it now. It's really exciting.
All right. Well, I think we've sort of come to the end of the questions. Do you want to any concluding thoughts or anything else you want to share before we terminate the event? Henry or Joe?
No, I want to appreciate everyone for hanging on the line. We've got most people to stay. My email's on the screen, and at any time, shoot me an email if you want to talk shop or have ideas what the application could do. We have a new supply information management tool coming up. Anyone wants to know about it, just reach out. And as you can tell, I love to talk. So.
And Henry?
Well, we appreciate your time. We think there is something really going on here. We would encourage you to take a look at what you're doing and get a look-see at the opportunity that may exist in your efforts in changing the way you do business. At least have a look and to understand the opportunities here with continuous audits, program audits instead of statement or instead of periodic or project audits. There's a lot of opportunity. We think most of our clients are still only scratching the surface here and have a great way to go in terms of making this more of a continuous value-added process that puts the management back in control of the process. So I'm Henry Imes from PayStream Advisors, and we appreciate you joining us today.
Yes, thank you both very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody, for attending. As I said at the beginning of the event, that we will send out a link to the recorded version of this webinar, along with the a certificate of completion for everybody that attended. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you at another one of our webinars in the future. Bye-bye.